I'm Tom Johnson, Thomas Johnson Antique Furniture Restoration in Gorham, Maine. This is a real nice mid-century modern coffee table made by Lane Furniture from their Acclaim series. And 25 years ago or so, I was walking to work in Newton, Massachusetts. It was trash day. This was in the trash. It was laying on the lawn in the rain. I got to work, got the truck, picked it up. Here it is, all that time later. The second piece of furniture I ever bought back in, say, 1971 or 72 was a 6-foot version of this table with the double dovetails. And all that furniture is still in the family. We've collected other pieces too. And it's really handsome furniture. These tops are walnut veneer. This is veneered where the dovetails are, with a solid edge made of ash. I don't know what the core is. I don't think we're going to find out. It might be solid wood or it might be MDF. A lot of books say walnut and oak, but they weren't oak, they were ash. Maybe some of them were elm. I'm not sure. And here we can see when it was made. This is a little tough to read, but this is the serial number. And this is the 5th, it's backwards for the date. So it's the 5th month, 16th of May, May 16th, 64. The 4 is a little tough to make out. But this was made in 1964. I'm anxious to wash this, but take a look at these ends. They're the worst damage that I see. Every few years, the old 6-foot clamps come out. There's no substitute for them. You can still buy these clamps new. Even with all the innovative new designs in clamps, nothing can replace these 6-footers. From what I can tell looking online, they're still using the same castings. The other clamp's a different design. I think they still make these too. Closed right up. Now, can it come together side to side? Oop. I could see movement there. That's good. Okay, I'm going to glue up all these loose areas. I'm doing that before stripping or washing or anything else. I don't want any dirt, water, stripper, anything else getting down in these repair areas. I will give it a quick wipe. Get some of that dirt out of there. I'm going to use West System epoxy on these joints. They're lousy joints. We don't know what's going on. I don't think wood glue would do it. I'm going to use it with no thickener because I'm going to use a syringe. I'm going to add just a touch of color.
I wiped off the excess with alcohol, let it dry, and then that allows me to put tape here so that when I flip the table over, my epoxy doesn't run out. These syringes clean up easily with alcohol. I don't consider any of these plastic things to be disposable. They can be cleaned up and reused many, many, many times.
Okay, let's get these clamps off and see what we've got. Well, everything is where it's supposed to be.
And obviously you still need filler in some places. I might put wood in there.
So now I can take it outside and wash it. All right, I've let this dry overnight. Now I'm going to strip it. I'm going to use this 5F5. That's a methylene chloride stripper. And I'm going to use #1 steel wool. I'm hoping you can see there is some kind of weird finish on here. I don't think it's the original finish. I think someone started to refinish this table before it got tossed. You might have noticed earlier that someone rebuilt this corner with putty. It must have been damaged. At first I thought it had softened the finish enough, but there's dry finish here. It hasn't really penetrated. I'm going to recoat this and let it sit for a while longer. A piece of plastic will keep it wet longer. And now I'm using lacquer thinner to clean off any traces of the finish. For a final rinse, I mixed TSP and water. Okay, the table's dried overnight. It looks great. I'm going to begin the sanding process. I'm going to start sanding with 150, and I'm going to sand strictly by hand. This is a veneered top. How do we know it's veneered? At first glance, just by looking at the grain direction of these pieces of wood, you strongly suspect that it's veneered, and given its age. If you look at the bottom, you immediately see that the bottom is a large veneered panel. There's no dovetails or anything. And also, someone was in the process of refinishing this table when it got tossed. And they filled in this area with putty, but they also sanded through the veneer right here. So I'm still going to give it a good sanding. I'm going to be very, very careful, strictly by hand, especially around the edges. It's okay to sand cross grain on these pieces. You just sand with the grain of the main field of the top. As long as you're sanding up to 220, which I am, and I'm not staining it, it'll be fine. See this area? At first I'm thinking that's traces of the finish that I didn't get off, but it could also indicate the veneer getting very thin, so I have to sand that very, very carefully. I'm hoping you can see it. There's a darker streak right there. That has me worried, but then I look closely at it and I can see that it has the grain of this walnut and it's walnut colored. So I don't think I'm going through there. No, I think I was right. That haziness is old finish and it's coming out. So that's what I'm talking about. You can go ahead and sand veneer panel, but you have to keep, totally vigilant. On the lookout for anything that might indicate you're going through. And that's why I don't recommend machines on this. A machine will go through that veneer faster than you realize it. So I've got it all sanded. I've noticed though that, I noticed this from the start, there's a lot of areas with a lot of grayness and darkness in the grain. Here's a good example. So I'm going to give it a treatment of oxalic acid. I'm going to use about 750 milliliters of hot water, about a quart. My hot water runs about 125 degrees, or say 52 degrees Celsius. I can't measure the oxalic acid by weight. I use this scoop. This is 1 ounce, or approximately 30 milliliters. That's a liquid measure, but I'm going to use 2 scoops of this. When using oxalic acid, keep kids and pets away, wear a mask, use plenty of ventilation. I'm just going to let this sit here and dry, let the oxalic work. I will go over this. I'm trying to pick up any drips. All right, table looks good. Last night, off camera, I gave it a real good rinse of clear water to get all the oxalic off. Now, I'm going to go over it again with 150 and then 220. The next step is to paint these feet black. Okay, I'm ready to apply my first coat of varnish. I'll be using my favorite finish, the Waterlox Original. You know, usually I just brush on the varnish and let it dry like I've done here on the bottom of the top. But I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to brush on a light coat of varnish, not too light. I want it to be even. But then I'll take a rag, like a pad, and just very, very lightly smooth that out. Not so much that I can't still see a sheen. I'm guessing that the original finish on this table was some sort of nitrocellulose lacquer or some variation thereof, just given the time, 1960s. It had a nice kind of natural look to it though, so I hope to achieve a nice natural look using the varnish. And I would always use varnish on a coffee table top because anybody that's in this business knows that every coffee table must be able to withstand a hot pizza box. That's just the world we live in now. Well, I hope I'm leaving enough on there. Got a pretty thin coat on here. We'll find out tomorrow. Well, the table still looks good. I'm starting to see some build of the finish, but I don't think it's building as fast as I was hoping it would. Of course, that's just 2 coats. I like the level of finish I'm seeing on the stretchers and legs. And of course, yesterday I just brushed on a really thin coat and didn't wipe it off with a rag. So using the foam brush, I'm going to put on just as thin a coat as I possibly can. This is the same foam brush I used yesterday. I get many uses out of them. You know, easily one job like this with just one. If you're wondering how I get multiple uses out of a single foam brush, I simply suspend it in paint thinner overnight or between coats, take it out the next day, wring it out, wipe it all the excess paint thinner out, and it's good to go. Boy, I used very little finish. All right, good. Now I'm starting to see some build of the finish here. There's still some areas that are where it's soaked in a little bit too much. It's a little bit raw. Other areas are starting to come along. I'm going to do a coat. I'm going to sand this with 320 just lightly, and then I'm going to do the same thing I did yesterday. Try to put on the thinnest possible coat that I can. I'm using some Mohawk wax wash remover to wipe off the sanding residue, and it also helps, this particular product helps get rid of any contaminants that may be on the surface. Wow, it looks good. It still has a nice open grain finish. I hope you can see what I mean. Open grain means that the grain is not completely sealed off and leveled off. You can still see the grain there. There's a part of me that wants to put more finish down because I like things leveled off and a little shinier, but my goal was to keep this finish to a minimum and at a low luster, so I think I'm going to stand pat. Now what happens over time with this Waterlox finish, I like using the medium sheen, but as it cures over a period of 6 months, the sheen really reduces and it really gets into a really low level medium sheen. And then eventually at that time, I'll go over it with steel wool and this Watco satin wax. I think that's going to give me what I want. For today, I'm just going to go over with a little bit of steel wool. I want to get the nits off, even it out a bit, and wipe it off. I will wait till it cures before I put the wax on it. Well, there you have it. A really nice mid-century modern coffee table by Lane Furniture from their Acclaim series. There's quite a bit of this furniture around, and it's really beautiful. I found this piece laying on somebody's lawn on trash day. This was in not bad shape, but it had some damage. I stripped, sanded it, and refinished it. I have to say, it looks pretty good. I got about 16 hours in this job, and I used these tools and materials. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe. Feel free to share it on other platforms. I'd appreciate it.